All right, today we are talking about walking in the Spirit, and this kind of goes, along the lines with what we typically talk about. And um, what we're doing is just uh, we're making the word practical and applicable, so people are without excuse. Now, uh, the verse I read this verse this morning, actually right before the show. So we're going to read this real quick. And that verse is Psalms chapter 1, verse 1 through 4. Okay? And uh, what it says, blessed is the man that uh, walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful, but his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law doeth he meditate day and night. And we talk about meditating on this word day and night, um, getting it ingrained in your brain. You know what I'm saying? Um, and truly seeking the Father. And I'm a tell a little testimony a little later on, but we have to cling to this, especially in this season, in this time we're in now. We really have to be locked in, and be vigilant and aware. And you're not gonna be able to see what's coming unless you know what to look for. You know what I'm saying? And when I say see what's coming, I'm talking about the tricks and the wiles of the enemy. You know, you're not gonna be able to see it unless you're dialed into this word. You know what I'm saying? In the Yah's word, not your thoughts, not your feelings, not your emotion. And this is what we talk about when we talk about walking in the Spirit. Okay, and I'm gonna get granular with it, so y'all just give me a sec. And it says, and in His law doeth we meditate day and night, and He shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water that bringeth forth his fruit in his season. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. The ungodly are not so. They are like the chaff which the wind driveth away. So, and I remember Pastor Mir he was teaching, and he was just saying how there was a tree planted by a tree. I think he said he tried to pull up by a river on his land by the water there, and he was saying how deep them roots were in there. That thing was deeply rooted. So, um, and then it's going to produce fruit when it needs to, at the correct time to produce fruit. So I talked about that too. Um, but yeah, walking in the Spirit. Um, Another verse that comes to mind is what is it? Is Galatians chapter 5, verse 16. And it tells you, walk in the Spirit, and ye shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. This is how you die to self. Okay? This is how you put the flesh to death. You know what I'm saying? Is walking in the Spirit. Taking on, and I'm saying it in a lot of different ways so people um, can really grasp where I'm coming from, what I'm talking about, so that you get a good understanding. Because a lot of times it's a lot of times you get a vague understanding of what's being said, especially when we start talking about spiritual things. And what you want to, I'll put it like this. That here's a better way of saying it. Okay, you know, go into my little testimony, history, whatever you want to call it. You know, I grew up um, going to church. Like we really started going to church in a serious way back when I was about when I was like 9 8 9 years old, something like that. And I knew there was something to everything, but you're in Christianity, so it's like seeing through a dirty glass window. You know what I'm saying? You're trying to, something, what's there, but you can't see it clearly. You know what I'm saying? Um, but I I saw the Most High operating in there to a degree, but then there I could also see all the sin, the dysfunction, the wickedness, and this was all through all the way about up to about the age of 25, 26, when I just said, hey, I'm gonna just figure this thing out myself, and I walked away from the Christianity. And then the Most High took me on a path back to, where I'm at now. Back into the real word. But um, what I saw throughout my experiences in Christianity, I saw a lot of people that had the Spirit but weren't listening to the Spirit. That might be a good way of saying it. And it wasn't and then I came into the Hebrew Israelite thing. And then you got different parts of this Hebrew Israelite thing. You got the intellectual Hebrew Israelites. Then you got the camp Hebrew Israelites. So the intellectual Hebrewites is all knowledge and biblical knowledge and stuff like that. No spiritual stuff per se. Then you go all the way to the other, you got the camp Hebrew Israelites. And again, it's all about truth. And most people when you hear Hebrew Israelite, you think about a camp. So you have that. And then you had what I would call the Christian Hebrew Israelites, where it wasn't so much about truth, but it was about kind of the more emotional side of things. It was a lot of praising and worshiping and things you could feel, but in all that, the essence of what this book's about and this walk wasn't there. Okay, and then and as I journeyed through all that, and it was getting to the point where I was like, man, this is like literally like Christianity. Like I'm not seeing no real footwork. So I'm gonna really get in and define what I'm talking about when I say footwork. Okay, and I'm gonna back it up with evidence. Okay, so got there. So then got y'all. Most of y'all know the history. I was working with Ron Dalton and everything, and that led me to meeting Pastor Dow and seeing Straightway, and that's where I saw people walking this thing out on all 8 cylinders. You know what I'm saying? No misfiring, no nothing. Okay. And when I talk about walking in the Spirit, you have the Spirit, and you're hearkening and obeying what the Spirit says. Okay, And what do I mean by that? Let's break that down a little more. Your moral conduct and your moral character is in alignment with the word. Well, break that down even more, Mike. Well, let's go a little deeper. Okay. What I saw when I came here to Straightway was they walked it like they talked it. So if there's a situation, even though you know in these types of situations, whatever it might be, it could be anything. You know in these types of situations, people are highly inclined to lean to their own understanding and justify their thoughts, feelings, and emotions. I still saw people standing on book in the midst of, it potentially causing loss that on a carnal level might, on a carnal level, people will be like, oh, don't do that, So yeah, I saw people standing on biblical principle in the face of what most people would fold under. You know what I'm saying? In the face of temptation. So, yeah. And like I said, when I was out there in Christianity, and even when I read the word, you see the Most High manifesting in people. Like, you see miracles being done. You see all this stuff. Even in the word, the Most High was dealing with Israel directly. I'll give you a perfect example. Two perfect examples. King David, during his time, the Most High was dealing with them directly. They saw the Most High operating like we never, to a level we don't see today. It was like everything was on display. They knew the Most High was rocking with them 100. And guess what? That whole nation was scared and up on that hill. Except one man. And that's King David. He was standing on principle with book. You see what I'm saying? Another one is I always talk about Joshua. And, they're ready to go in. The Most High gave them the land, said, this is y'all's to take. It's all y'all's. I'm blessing y'all with this. It's yours. Only thing, you got to be strong and courageous. And you saw people, oh no, they're big, and operating in spirits of fear and not walking in the spirit, not walking this thing out. You see what I'm saying? And that's the essence of what I look at in men and in women and in the people that that I will put in my inner circle or the environment or the atmosphere I'm a being. The atmosphere needs to be conducive to spiritual growth and development. And like them verses I read on repeat on this channel. Gold is tried in the fire, and acceptable men in the furnace of adversity. And like I said, what I saw when I came to Straightway, what I saw from Pastor Dow and how he operated and like being around him and dealing with him all the time, in adversity, he wouldn't waver. You know what I'm saying? If something needed to be said, it'd be said. It wasn't what I had seen in Christianity. It wasn't what I had seen out there in the so-called Hebrew Israelite community. Prior to meeting Pastor and the saints in Straightway, the person I had seen in the Hebrew Israelite community that was as close to doing, like putting some action forth or something like that, was Ron Dalton. That's why I was running with him. I was like, hey, the mug say he's going to do a movie. push this truth forward, hey, let me rock with him. But I started seeing chinks in his armor. You know what I mean? I started seeing a lot of cracks in that. And like, I think now that he on there talking about South Africa is Jerusalem or something like that. Somebody told me that. But yeah, man, walking in the spirit, standing on principle, standing on book, you know. And I get it. I've seen the you know, in my life, the Most High, the Spirit has dealt with me. I've seen the manifestation of it, but look, Satan still be there. We still got to stand firm and be vigilant. I've you know, we got to stand on book, because that flesh is still there, and that flesh has to be killed off. Let me let's go through. Let me read something else there. We have 1 Corinthians chapter 12. Okay. And I'm look, I'm gonna be talking about some stuff. I've seen this stuff. I'm not gonna read through the whole thing, but with 1 Corinthians chapter 12, it talks about now concerning spiritual gifts. So it goes through all the different spiritual gifts, and it breaks down. You should read it in its context, read it in its totality. Just read through that whole chapter there, and then at the end it says, "But covet earnestly the best gifts." So it's telling you to desire the best gifts. But then, okay, and this is the last verse on it. It says, this verse 31, it says, "But covet earnestly the best gifts, and yet show I unto you a more excellent way." And then you go to the next chapter, and he goes into what that more excellent way is. And it says, "Though I speak with tongues of men and angels, and have not charity," and this is agape love, that deep love, that love where you care for somebody else's well-being. That's what that love is. That's what that charity is they're talking about. So 1 Corinthians 13, it says, "Though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, and have not charity, I am become a sounding brass or a tinkling cymbal. And though I have the gift of prophecy, and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith." So man, it even talks about the gift of faith. "So that I could remove mountains, and have no charity, I am nothing." So my recommendation, I'm not going to read through the whole entire thing, but read 1 Corinthians chapter 12 and read 1 Corinthians chapter 13 in its entirety. Because, like I said, when I came to Straightway, and I'm here because I still see it here, is the charity. That's what I've saw in my walk, being out there all over the so-called Hebrew Israelite community, all in Christianity, and witnessing firsthand the dysfunction. And I'm talking about dysfunction when it comes to relationships, dysfunction when it comes, you name it. It was like the world out there. I saw the same stuff in there I saw in the world, sometimes to a greater degree. Death, you name it. Wickedness and evil in there taking people out. And what I saw when I came to Straightway that day, when we were up there at that event, and I met those those next 3 or 4 days when I met um, all the saints of Straightway, that's what I saw. I saw the love. I saw a charity. I saw where it was an environment where from the top down, they wanted you to grow and develop. Even if it was you were told stuff and stuff was broken down, and it wasn't worrying about your thoughts, feelings, emotions, and how you were going to take it. That thing was broken down and handed to you, for your well-being, for your good, even if you get in your feelings. I remember, man, up there in Detroit at that Great Awakening Hebrew gathering. And I remember when me and Ron got there, man, I remember the dirty looks I was getting. Even from that doctor, whatever his name was, his wife, I remember that. I remember I was like, dang. I was like, what the heck? Now, all the men up there were cool. Like, they were like, oh, it's Michelangelo. They were on some other stuff, but it was cool, But a lot of the women, it wasn't all the women, but the bulk of the women, they were the ones up there in Detroit. I remember I didn't even know what it was, but I could feel the coldness coming off them towards me. I was like, wow. And then Pastor got up there and he said he could see it too. I remember that chick only loved, oh my goodness, the heavy Jezebel behavior up there. But anyway, I remember that. And then I remember that evening, or it was the next day or whatever, I remember when Straightway started coming in, Pastor came, and it was like a breath of fresh air. You couldn't put it into words. It was like, and I knew I had found my family and everybody. But, yeah, man. And that's the difference I've seen is the saints in Straightway walk in the Spirit. What do I mean? What do I mean walk in the Spirit? I didn't say they have the Spirit. I said they're walking in it. They're hearkening to what the Spirit's saying. They're not just putting on a show, looking the part, because I've seen that everywhere. Where, hey, spiritual gifts. Like, they're given without repentance. Like, you know what I'm saying? But are you going to walk after the Spirit? And that is, man, I'm telling you, what happened when we came up to the event in Detroit, when we came there to that event, because when we came to the Detroit event, by that time, me, Sister Koya, and the spiritual combat thing, man, I had started, I'll say I had helped start like multiple assemblies in Florida that might still be going to this day. Like, I was traveling around doing what I thought was the work, just trying to get this word out, get people to come out and fellowship and meet each other. That's what I was out trying to do at the time. And it bared fruit, but some of the things we saw, like some of the evil we saw, some of the sin we saw, we just saw people with a religious spirit and not with a Holy Spirit. And when I say Holy Spirit, a set apart spirit, doing what the word says. They would talk a good game, put on a good religious show, but we didn't see them walking that thing out, And, we had a yearning for that. And then we, like I said, when we met Straightway up there, we knew, we were like, yeah, that's them. And it's been nothing but shaking heavy and moving hard from that day forward. You know what I'm saying? And Shabbat Shalom, y'all. Good to see y'all in there. But you know, you got to be vigilant. It's something I talked about the show I did yesterday. It's just, man, being vigilant, because Satan's always seeking who he may devour. And when I say being vigilant, I'm looking, what I've been doing, particularly this dead season here, is looking within. Like, looking at myself, looking at my responses to people, places, things, mindsets, impulses, like paying attention to all this stuff and digging up root, seeing where it doesn't align with the word. And I'm like, and I'm very, I have, over these years, I've gotten familiar with the process of dying to self-analyzation, you know, and doing that, because, you know, we're called to work our salvation out with fear and trembling, and not be prideful with it, in humility, and really look within and see, hey, what's operating in you that don't line up with book. And then what do you do when you find it? Check this out. What do you do when you find it? Look, I've been out there in all manner of study out there in the world. They don't got no answers. They tout the names of, oh, Freudian psychology and all these great names of psychologists that they hold in high esteem, and most of them people had depression. A lot of them were suicidal or committed suicide. Yo, the world ain't got no answers for, hey, once you find out that you struggle with rejection, what do you do? The world ain't got no answers. What they call it dialectic therapy and all this shit they got. Y'all, they got no answers. But y'all saw when I brought Brother Vince on the show the other day, his testimony. He was on drugs and wrestling with the heavy spirits, and he got it, plead the blood of Jesus on it, and gets it right off. But what the Most High needs you to do first is look within and find it and see it and identify that this is there and it doesn't belong there. And then you bring it before him. And if you can't see it, pray, fast, seek the Lord. Do these steps, die to self, walk in the Spirit. Like I said, man, I done seen, look, I done been up there, I done seen the noise. I done seen all the, you know, I done seen, I like to stay, you can see the way I teach, I be trying to get to the essence of stuff, to stay locked in, stay focused, because, yo, distracted people distract people. There's distractions out there. And the one thing the Most High, he wants you focused on is working out your salvation, like working it out, looking within. The one thing Satan wants you to do is die in your sin, not die to it. You know what I mean? And that's where all the distractions are, man. So, man, hey, look, this dead season, man, my spiritual circle is the size of a pin dot. That's what I reduced it down to. You know, it's only a handful. That's all you need. You know, that's book. You know what I'm saying? Why? And why am I doing that? Because, man, you got to stay locked in, y'all. Like, distractions are at an all-time high, you know? And let me see. Okay. Something I talk about is, like, anything can be used. Satan will use a word as a distraction. I just went through and said it. I just went through and told y'all how he'll use the word to distract you. If you go out there in the Hebrew Israelite community, I can't tell you, like, they having debates on what's this and debates on that and microanalyze, like, over obsessing about the curses we're in, what these other nations did for us. And look, once I learned why these other nations, why we went into the captivity we went into, and what's the why? Why? Because we were stubborn, rebellion, we weren't doing what the Most High was telling us. Okay? And once I learned the why, and then once I realized that that was operating in me this very day, that level of stubbornness, all that studying our captivity and getting all caught up in all that fell away, man. I was done. I was like, you know what? I gotta get my mind right. I gotta get my spirit in alignment with this word. I gotta take on the mind of Christ. I need the Holy Spirit. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, and after that, everything else, and even more so in this season we're in now, because if you have the gift or the spirit of discernment, you can discern the darkness operating in this dead season on a whole nother level. Okay? And, you know, that message Pastor did last week, hey, when the Most High closes the door, don't try to open it. Like, let them doors shut. So you can stay focused, stay locked in on your growth and development. And in doing that, your light's gonna shine. Okay? And one of the things I say is let your light shine. Don't try to make it shine. Don't try to convince people that it's shining. Let it shine. Because truth, keep it 100, it's so dark out here. When somebody's light does shine, there's nothing anybody can do to hide it. You know what I'm saying? So put a 100 up in there if that makes sense to y'all. If y'all get that. Alright, Brother D Love, he put Shalom, shalom, Brother Michael Israel. I am so grateful for the opportunity to be able to hear and understand about walking in the Spirit. Hallelujah. Yeah, that's just staying locked into the Word. And let me get back on track. All right, Brother Enoch said, wherefore gird up the loins of your mind, be sober, and hope to the end for the grace that is to be brought unto you at the revelation of Yeshua Messiah. Okay? It told you to gird up the loins of your mind. Okay? And he corrected his spelling. So yeah. So it's telling you to gird up your mind, to get your mind locked in. And I'm telling you, man, stuff will be trying to bombard it. Look, what I've been doing, when it says meditate on the word day and night, like now I'll be out here. I'm a mechanic, so I'll be out there working, and I'm out there by myself, man. That is the perfect time. But I even wrote it down on my to-do list, on my goal sheet. What I do, I don't wake up in the morning and study the word. That doesn't work for me. What I do, I put together like Bible readings and stuff, and I'm listening to the word all day while I'm working. Keeping it going in, drowning out anything outside of that. You know what I'm saying? I'm not watching the score, listening to sports talk radio, or you know what I'm saying, or other random bullshit out there that's out there to listen to just waste your time. Like, I could feel it draining me when I'm watching that stuff. Now, will I watch basketball highlights and UFC highlights and stuff like that? Yeah, absolutely, I do. But it's sparingly. The bulk of what I'm looking at is stuff to gird my mind up, to meditate day and night. Because y'all, and I'm trying to tell you, if you don't do that, which the word It's said all through the word. It's telling you to do that. If you're not doing that, if you sitting there consuming these negative videos these people are out there making, crying about how they got butt hurt and how their feelings got hurt by passing down all this stuff. If you're listening to some of these dumb debates out there they got out there in the so-called Hebrew Israelite community, like, I'm telling you, in this season we're in now, your cracks are gonna begin to show. It's gonna begin to show what you're meditating on, because it's literally like, yo, that's the season we're in, and you got to stay locked in. You got to stay locked in, and like that's why my videos, like, and I got some other videos I'm gonna be working on, like how the alien deception and stuff like that, and some end time stuff. But for the most part, I don't get caught up dwelling on all that stuff. Like one of the things I say, look, I don't get caught up and obsessed with the end times, because guess what? If I pass away tomorrow, that's my end times. You know, if something happens to you tomorrow, your end times have come. That's it. And then the judgment. And seeing that is what Satan wants to get us, get our mind off. Hey, you have to answer for what you've done, and what you've been doing, or how you've been thinking, and how you've been moving. It says, in that day, they will say, Lord, Lord, have I not done many mighty things in your name? Look, let me check this out, y'all. Let me get that verse. Somebody post that verse in there for me. And it says, what he will say is, your works, he's going to tell them, depart from me, your works were iniquity. It's about that footwork. It's about, okay, when you in the midst of strong emotion and impulses and feelings and your mind's running, do you go with those thoughts, feelings, emotions, and impulses? Or do you run them through the word? Does that voice pop up? And do you rationalize that still small voice where it's telling you, hey, do this? Do you rationalize it away some way? Or are you doing what it says right up there? Are you engaging in spiritual combat, in spiritual warfare? That's the purpose of all these videos I'm doing, because I'm sitting here watching people lose the spiritual battles. And I just want to make sure it's not for lack of knowledge. You know what I'm saying? I want to make sure it's not for a lack of knowledge. Okay? But yeah, we have to really be walking in the spirit in this season we're in. I want that everything. Look, you see the way I be rolling? Y'all know what it's about. Be strong and of good courage. Joshua 1:9. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to keep the whole makeup of everything I do is to keep it in people's mind that, yo, we're in warfare. This is war. The deception of the Greco-Roman Catholic beast system is to make you think you're not in war. It's all feel good, fluffy, butt naked little baby angels with bow and arrow. You know what I'm saying? And when you read through the word, that ain't the case. This thing is combat. And you got to be conditioned to engage in this warfare, this spiritual combat. So, getting back to the last thing I wanted to tell y'all that I was getting to. Looking at these, it was just amazing. This dude put this video out showing how he went through all the names of all these well-renowned psychologists that came up with all these different Um, they're just well renowned. And right now in psychology, I forget how many hundreds of different therapies they got to treat depression, rejection, fear, and all these psychological things. It's a ton of stuff. None of this shit work. And that brings me to the point I was gonna make. When you observe, when you see these things operating in you, what things am I talking about? Just anything where you're not walking in the spirit that's deeply ingrained. When you become aware of it, when you come out of your pride and you observe it and see it and recognize, hey, I'm wrestling with this. This thing is operating in me. What do you need to do next? Supplication, prayer, fast, supplicate. Bring it to the Most High Yah. Pray to Him. Fast. You see what I'm saying? Seek Him out. Get in the Word on that particular thing. Don't just read the Word to say, oh, people be like, I read my Bible each day. So, like, you could be reading the Bible about some stuff that ain't got nothing to do with what Satan's trying to kill you with. Okay? You got to be in purpose, on purpose. If the enemy's here, you can't have your weapon pointed over here, fighting over there. He gonna flank you. He gonna hit you from the side. You gotta be vigilant and know where he's stalking you at, and then pinpoint it and get it. Identify it and use the sword of the Spirit. Go after it with the Most High. You ain't a lot of this stuff like with me. I got a high level of willpower and drive, but man, especially when I first came into this and Most High was dealing with me, and I saw a spirit I was struggling with, it was lust and pornography. I knew there was no way I could fight that thing. That thing was like, and I said a prayer to Yah and told him, I can't do it. I'm helpless. I don't have the will to overcome this thing. And the next thing you know, it was gone. Years it went by. I didn't look at it or do anything along that lines. You know what I'm saying? As far as indulging that sin. So, this is what it's about. I get all the other stuff, but this is what it's about. This is where the warfare is at. This is the front lines on the battlefield. Is this walk that we need to be doing in the spirit. Our minds need to be in alignment with our minds need to be in alignment with the Most High. Okay. Our thoughts need to be His thoughts. Okay? But anyway, y'all, with that said, I appreciate y'all tuning in. I am Michael Israel. You are watching Spiritual Combat. And with that said, shalom, shalom.